This video is about faculty on-site interviews, or can also be remote interviews. So if you're watching this, you've probably been invited to a faculty interview, or you're getting your package together to send out to apply for faculty jobs. And so good luck with that, and or congratulations for having been invited to a faculty interview. Now, when I was first invited for an interview as a postdoc, I had a certain amount of anxiety about these interviews. And so I think I want to dispel some of the misconceptions you may have about these faculty searches and put your mind at ease and also prepare you for what is likely to come. So first of all, this process differs quite a bit from country to country. I have experience from the US, from the UK, and mostly from Germany. I've been on countless faculty search committees here in Germany and in the US, and I've also been on the other side in a bunch of different countries as well. And I've most recently been dean, and so I've been on a ton of search committees this way. So I have quite a bit of experience with these faculty search processes from various perspectives. So first things first, the thing that caused me a lot of anxiety when I went to my first faculty interview was, this is basically going to be like one extensive test of your knowledge. This is kind of what I thought. It's like, oh dear, it's like gonna be days worth of people like testing you if you know what you wrote in a statistical test on page 179 of your paper from 2 years ago and whatever. And so there I can already tell you, and this is actually super important to know, and I wish somebody had told me back in the day, is like, this is not what this is about, right? By the time you're invited for this faculty interview, the search committee has already determined that you are qualified. You could do this job. And so the faculty search is actually that on-site interview of the faculty search is actually about something entirely different. It's about finding out about you as a person, and it's figuring out if you would be a good fit with this particular department from both sides, right? It needs to fit from both ends. The department needs to provide some of the conditions so that you are successful, and they will look at that. And you, of course, should be prepared to make clear what you could contribute to the department. And that is going to be the focus. Of course, there may be some things coming up along the way about, out of curiosity, how will you apply this method and whatever, but you did this, right? So, there's no way to be worried about that, and you're the expert, so it's super unlikely that they will ask you something that you don't know. And it's also not the focus, so don't think of it as like a 2, 3, or however many days test, but think of it almost more like a date, like you're trying to figure out if you are a good fit for each other. And so this is going to be really the focus of that interview. And knowing that, I think it changes the way you go into this interview a lot. So that was important to say. So what kind of things can you expect as part of the faculty interview? Well, you will probably be preparing mostly for that research seminar that you have to give. And this is going to be, an important part of that interview, because that is a part that is mostly under your control, because you typically give like a 30-minute presentation, and afterwards there's a Q&A session that is about more like your research or also what you are planning on doing. And here is very important, and I have another video specifically just for that purpose, because it is actually being done wrong so many times, is that this research seminar is not your normal research seminar at all. It's not that. There is a big part of it that is a research seminar, like you would give it at a talk, or if you're invited to a conference or to some other department outside of a job search. But in the job search context, that research seminar is different. It starts way broader because, typically you're interviewing maybe like for a biology department or whatever it is, chemistry, whatever your subject is. And so chances are there's not many experts in what you do in that room. So you need to make sure that you start sufficiently broadly so that people understand what the relevance of your work is. So you're talking to a pretty broad group. It could be even broader, it could be a super broad group of biological sciences or natural sciences or whatever have you. And so you would typically start broader. Then you do more or less your research seminar, and as I said, I have a specific video for just that, so look at that. But at the end, I think you need to very, very clearly say what you're going to do if you were to come here. This is integral part of that research seminar, and a lot of people forget to do that. And it's a great opportunity to showcase what you can actually bring to the department. It will also come up in the interview afterwards, but here is your chance to be proactive and to already say it in that research seminar and be specific about it. Now, depending on the position and also how people do it in the particular institution that you're interviewing for, there will also be a teaching seminar. And so often the teaching seminar is, there is a predetermined topic that's given to you. So you have to do you have to give some biology lecture, typically for a particular target group of students, let's say second or third year bachelor students, and you have to talk about whatever, soil aggregation or plant or photosynthesis, something. So this is a predetermined topic so that everybody has basically a similar challenge. Sometimes there's also several topics given. And so this is just to figure out if you would be a reasonable teacher. And well, it obviously is worth preparing for that, because even though teaching often is not the most decisive factor in faculty hires, it's just a fact, unless this is a very teaching-oriented job, of course, it is still important. And if you negatively impress the students that are going to be on the search committee, for example, or that feed information to the search committee, that's going to not reflect positively on you. So of course, it's obvious to also prepare well for the teaching lecture. Now then, it will be the actual interview of the interview process, which is like your meeting with the search committee. And there you can expect a whole range of questions. Typically, they ask the same question of all of the candidates, more or less. And also, I'll make another video on this topic, but some general questions that you can expect are around the circumstances of how you would fit into this particular department, school, or division, or whatever it's called, that hires you. And of course, this is why you need to do your homework very carefully, because you need to be able to come up with as many links as are reasonable and as are real with that particular group. So if you haven't done your research, of course, you're going to do very poorly. So it's important to be well informed, and then you can state how you would fit into that department's mission, right? Like, what would you add that isn't already there? And also, what could you contribute to teams, for example? And something that is going to be invariably asked is like, how will you get money? You know, what funding agencies are you going to be targeting with what topics? What is going to be your first grant that you write? This is some pretty standard questions. And what is your outlook for the next 5 to 10 years? Where are you going to be? And so this is also where you're looking for, you know, how can I do like a sort of a team within this particular department? I could do something with Professor A, B, and C, and we could together apply for a project from, you know, DFG or NSF or whatever your agency is, and on this and this topic. These are the kind of things that they're going to want to hear from you. And also, the teaching will come up, you know, even if it's not a teaching focused position. Of course, these always come with teaching typically. And so therefore it's important for you to know what are your expectations for this position, right? They will sometimes tell you, but it's also pretty clear sometimes from the job ad, sometimes not. Then you need to do your research and figure out, you know, what degrees do they even have? Do they have a master's in, say, like biodiversity, and this is something that you want to teach for? Or what bachelor degrees do they have? What doctoral schools do they have? So you're gonna have to do your research on that, so you're knowledgeable and you can see how the teaching that you've done before, of the experience that you already have, how that can be mobilized in a very short period of time to be a useful contribution, basically, to the teaching of the department. And so that's going to be important as well. They may also ask you about, you know, academic involvement in other ways. You know, are you going to be interested in serving on certain committees, for example? Typically, this is going to be not that important, but it may also be good to be aware of, like, what are the things that are currently going on in this department? Like, are they trying to have a particular focus at the moment? You know, often their webpage will say that, and so it's important to weave that in somehow. Or is that university kind of developing a focus or a big sort of consortium that crosses also departments? And it's of course also important to be aware of that and sort of weave that in to your narrative, what you're going to do in that particular school, department, or college. Now, typically, depending on the country, there's also going to be individual meetings with faculty, and they are going to be typically curious about, you know, what your research is and how they could interact with you. And so, of course, if there are named faculty you're going to be meeting, that's important to to know who you're going to be talking to. Often a feature of these interviews is also going to be the lunch or something, pizza lunch or whatever, with graduate students. And so there you can be prepared also for typically more teaching, advising, mentoring related questions that may come up in that context. And so it's good to have like some answers that you can think of there as well. And, depending on the nature of the position, there could be other items like a tour of the facilities. There could be social events like joint dinners planned with faculty. In Germany, it's typically with the other candidates, which is slightly awkward, but it's the way it is here. And, also they are never really sort of relaxed, even though they try to make it a relaxed circumstance for sure. But, of course, you're going to be observed even during the more laid-back parts of that itinerary that you have. And so this is kind of what you can expect. Depending on a country, this takes 1 or 2 days or something. At the end, you will initially not hear much. There's going to be, depending on the country, quite a delay. In Germany, the delay can be quite long. In other countries, you hear almost right away what the chances are that you are in the next step and so on and so forth. But what comes afterwards is really very country specific, and I think it doesn't make sense to talk about here in a general way. But I've been, as I said, involved in searches in different countries as well, and also at very different institutions, and they more or less all have these different components here. And so I hope you found that useful, and maybe it could take away some of the anxiety you have for your first faculty interview. Go ahead and have fun and show yourself from your best side. And I wish you all the best of luck with that. And thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.